Welcome to Equality Education, a show about inclusive teaching, supportive parenting, and a kinder future. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Equality Education podcast with me, Olly Pike. This week, I'm delighted to share with you an absolute powerhouse of a guest who shares with me what it was like being diagnosed with a rare bone condition at an early age, to then winning bronze, silver and gold medals as they smashed wheelchair racing competitions, all whilst navigating their LGBT plus identity too. Yes, this week I'm thrilled to introduce to you the incredible Lizzie Williams. Hello, Lizzie, and welcome to Equality Education. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Hello.
It's an honour to have you, and I just have to say, for all the listeners out there who can't see you, you have the most incredible blue purple hair at the moment, and I'm like super jealous. I love it. I need to share a picture with everyone.
Yeah, dude, thank you very much. It's kind of like my trademark on the track. My teammates call me Blue Lightning.
Oh, that is so cool. I mean, I attempted something like this when I was younger, but it didn't look as cool as you. So yeah, super jealous. Anyway, you. I'm getting distracted with your amazing hair. Before we start, firstly, Lizzie, what are your pronouns?
My pronouns are she, her, but I won't be offended if anyone happens to come up with anything different.
Awesome, that's cute. I like that. And secondly, can you please tell everyone a happy memory from your childhood?
Yeah, so this is a memory that I look back on often, and it is of me rock climbing with a broken leg. And that was like, it was kind of a really cool moment that I look back on, because it was like, despite the fact that I had a broken leg and my leg was in plaster cast, I still managed to climb my way up to like the top of the wall. And I must have been like 8 or 9 years old, so it's just a really cool, and I've got it on picture like as well, so it's fond
you know
memory.
What, Lizzie, I absolutely stalked your Instagram and I saw that picture.
Oh, I did put it on there. That's awesome.
No, it's super cute. Yeah, no, I love it. There's actually loads of other pictures of you as a kid as well, so it was really sweet to kind of see you growing up as well. So
it's really
it's
cool.
Nice when you post things like that.
Yeah, I love it. I was sort of going through like pictures recently and just scanned a few, just had them on my phone, and yeah, every now and then it's just a cool reason to just pop them up and remember sort of like the journey that I've had, because that, like, really, especially that picture of me rock climbing with a broken leg kind of really reflects just my journey throughout this life. Exactly.
So let's just talk about that picture and that moment in time, actually, because obviously, well, first of all, let's talk about your condition. You have something called, and please forgive me if I get this wrong, Osteogenesis Imperfecta. How was that? Was that correct?
You nailed it.
Oh my goodness.
You did it, yeah. Nailed it.
Awesome. However, more commonly known as brittle bones.
Yeah, that's just the easy, Osteogenesis Imperfecta is like the Latin medical sort of terminology of it, if you will. And
it sounds quite fancy.
Osteo is bone, genesis is like in the beginning, and then imperfecta is like imperfect. So it's like imperfect bones from birth.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
That's basically how it,
And basically this condition means that your bones are more fragile and less dense.
Yeah, that's one of the characteristics. Probably the main characteristic, but it kind of affects the whole body. Yeah. So it's kind of like making bread without yeast. I am a loaf of bread without yeast. You're
a lovely loaf of bread, though.
Thank you. Actually, I'm a blue bread, so maybe not the best.
That's such a fun way of describing it. I love that. But as a result of this condition, you've actually suffered over 70 broken bones.
Yeah.
And is that something that happened since you were born, or did they all just come in one go?
It was like, fresh into the world. I think I had my first fracture at just like after a couple of weeks of my life on this earth. And it just pretty much, went like continued on from then. I think I got into this really good cycle of like back-to-back fracturing. So I'd fracture, I'd be in hospital for 6 weeks or thereabouts, maybe have some surgery as well, and then I'd go home and then something else would happen and I'd end up back in hospital with something else broken and another 6 weeks, and it was just pretty much constant like that until I got to about 12, I think. And then once I hit sort of puberty and that sort of thing, I did notice a difference, and I'd been on like a few treatments as well, which I think had helped. So that was kind of like my breaking point, but like a good breaking point where things started to change and I started to fracture less. But so up until then, it was pretty wild. And yeah, I missed quite a lot of school.
I bet. And when you was a child, were your bones more like softer? Is that why they broke a little bit easier?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess because I was missing that, ingredient or whatever. And as a baby, I guess you're quite sort of fragile, anyways, and things can happen. And I, being a baby or a young child, or along them first few years of life, I don't really have a concept of what I can and can't do, because I'm just a kid and I just want to do stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember, especially when I was about 4 or 5, and I started going to like primary school and stuff like that, and I'd see like other kids doing stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that, I'll try that, and I'll try like stand up, and I'd like break both my legs or something.
Oh, goodness.
And I just got into a really good cycle of doing stuff like that.
So yeah, I guess you were always pretty like determined, especially looking at that picture of you rock climbing.
Yeah,
it's like you were just like, no, screw it, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, literally. I was a bit of a risk taker, and I wanted to always try and do something that I knew I might not be able to do, but I thought, I want to do it.
So what would you like as a child? How would you describe your personality as a child?
I was a pretty good kid, I think, but I was also, I really wanted to push the limits and stuff, and I did find it quite difficult, especially in primary school, because I was, I guess, quite a liability in a way. Like I went to a mainstream primary school, but they had a department for kids with additional needs, such as myself. Mm-hmm. So that, it worked out well, but they were obviously very anxious of the fact that, I was fragile and I could break a bone at any point, and they didn't know when that could be. So they were, I guess, quite on edge all of the time. And I was just wanting to do this, that, and everything, and perhaps didn't understand from their perspective and their point of view why I couldn't or why I shouldn't. But it was definitely difficult from that way, because I was always aware that I was different, and there were things I couldn't do, like PE. I often couldn't go outside like during break and lunchtime, just in case other kids like ran into me, like just stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even until I left primary school, I think in the last couple of years, when we moved to like a different part of the school and you've got like different turf of like playground, we managed to get like a little corner of it.
Yeah.
Just for me and my twin sister. Yeah, I've got a twin sister, and she's got the same disability, but is affected a bit differently. And we were allowed to have like, a couple of friends just in this little corner of the playground. And that was, looking back on that, like, I guess, I didn't really know any different, but it's kind of sad to think, lunch and break time, I had to pick a couple of friends. I mean, I didn't have that many friends anyway, but it's, it was a bit sad.
Was there any moments throughout your, like, on the whole, your childhood, would you say it was like not a great time for you?
It was a mixture. Like, I couldn't say it was bad. I couldn't say it was amazing. It was what it was. It was what it was, and it was a huge process, a huge journey for me, a big time of development and understanding. And it wasn't, I had to get through that and get past that to actually eventually get stronger and strong enough to sort of do things without breaking as much, and eventually, not breaking. Mm-hmm. I think I'm at the point now. I'm 24 years old now, and I haven't broken anything that significant in probably about 10 years. Like, I say not significant, I do like, ribs and fingers, but just like small things like that, which I can, handle from home and sort of carry on my day-to-day life.
You said something really interesting, that you always knew you were different.
Yeah.
I just wanted to like go back on that, because I think for some people that they can kind of pinpoint a moment when they know that they're different to people, whether it's because of their race or whatever. But it's just interesting that you said that you always knew you were different. So you can't pinpoint like an exact moment.
No, not at all. It was, I just came, everywhere I went, I was kind of introduced, with like bubble wrap around me, I guess. Yeah. And being in a wheelchair as well, like that was kind of everyone sees the wheelchair before they see the person. Mm-hmm. So that's always, you can't really hide that. I was the kid in the wheelchair.
Had you always been in a wheelchair ever since you were really tiny? Yeah,
always. I literally couldn't hold my own body weight. I'd try to, and then probably break a leg or maybe both. It sounds. I don't know why I laugh about it, but it's just crazy to think about it.
Yeah, no, completely. So as you got older, things started to get a little bit better, as you just mentioned. Like, you were becoming a little bit stronger. And was secondary school any easier time for you?
Yeah, it was completely different, actually, because like once I got to high school, I went to a mainstream high school, and again they had like a department for kids with additional needs, but the whole approach was like completely different, and it was quite a specialist and like well-known school for how well they dealt with kids with additional needs. And it was very much like, you know, you're going to learn how to be independent here. You're going to learn how to sort of just do stuff on your own and learn your own boundaries. And that was really cool. And it was, I guess it was a bit scary, like the first sort of year, because I've been so used to having like people around me and sort of like protecting me, I guess. And all of a sudden I didn't really have that. I mean, I did, you know, in a safe way, but not in like a too much way. Like I learned to just do stuff myself, which sounds ridiculous, but like I was like, oh, what do I do? But yeah, no, it was I guess quite what's the word? It was game changing for me, I think, high school, because I really sort of put into practice being able to be independent.
Can I ask you how your condition kind of affects your day-to-day life?
Yeah, so nowadays, I mean, I still use a wheelchair, so day-to-day, I guess there's the issue of like accessibility and sort of mobility issues, but yeah, I'm quite fortunate that I haven't really had any major fractures in so long, so I'm not, and even when I do, like I'm not stuck in hospital for a long period of time.
What about when you're out and about?
Yeah, so I'm pretty independent when it gets to, being out and about. I love my independence. I drive, and I've got my wheelchair, and I guess I have problems navigating, I guess, today's society. You've got like, just getting in the car and finding a parking space, like the disabled parking. Like I love my disabled parking. I love my blue badge, but there's always people that will just park in there just for like 5 minutes or whatever they'll say, and they don't have that right to park there because they haven't got a blue badge or they haven't got a disability. They don't have the need to park there. Mm-hmm. And then there's once I'm in town or wherever I am and just trying to navigate the buildings which are or are not accessible. So it's just stuff like that. Like it's a whole different approach, I guess, to someone who perhaps doesn't have a disability or a mobility aid, and you just kind of have to, literally navigate around this world that perhaps wasn't, built for people like me who have disabilities and mobility aids.
And how does that make you feel? Is it frustrating or is it annoying? It
can be. But I see it, I kind of take it as like, a challenge for myself, and, my friends will just try and like pull people up on it or have a conversation, like for the parking, for example, like if someone's parked in a space and perhaps they're still in the car, maybe they're just waiting for a friend or they're picking up some food, then just try and engage in a conversation which isn't like, dude, like what you doing? you're in the disabled parking space and you clearly don't have like a blue badge displayed. So don't be confronting, just sort of like, I try to be just
educating.
Educating, exactly, and just sort of explain perhaps why them parking there, even if it's just for a few minutes, there'll be people that literally, if they can't find a disabled space, then they'll probably just turn back and go home. And that's kind of sad. Like, you just have to be aware that, for some people, they need to be as close as they can to wherever they are trying to get to, or they need the best sort of parking space, which allows them to navigate around their car to get in, to and from their wheelchair and stuff like that. And it's that case of you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. No, I really like that you do that. I like that you do it in like a non-confrontational way as well, because people get so defensive. And it's like, you don't necessarily want to tell them off. You just want them to think about other people and maybe stop being a little bit selfish.
That's it, yeah.
I mean, and I think all you can do is just try and teach someone. And I guess forgive them for being inconsiderate.
Yeah, sometimes they come back and they get a bit defensive. Or, I remember being in like, when I was at university, people would often sort of just misuse these disabled bays, and I did get a bit angry.
Yeah, rightly so though. Like, you're totally entitled,
yeah,
like to get miffed at that, because that's not cool. And thank you for talking about all of this, by the way.
Of course.
And being like really honest about it, because I don't know, I feel like what do you think? Do a lot of people kind of tiptoe around this sort of thing and not ask you questions, or?
Yeah, I think, people can be a bit scared or a bit anxious to ask these sort of questions. And yeah, especially, I feel like, especially around like disability, they don't know what's right and what's not, personal, whatever. But to me, I'm an open book, and I think, I have my own journey, my own perspective as a disabled and queer person. And if I can sort of give any insight into what my life is like as this kind of person navigating this kind of world, then maybe it's, maybe it can help someone, or we can make change through the faults that I see through my eyes.
Exactly. Like, we've all got such unique stories and lessons that we can share with people.
That's it.
I actually want to ask you now about the actual word disability. And before you answer, I just want to tell you my take on it. And I actually don't think it's a very good word, because to me that word implies something less than. And I don't think that's the case with a lot of people who have been given this label. Like yourself, there's nothing less about you.
Totally.
I actually think a better word would be diffability, like just a different ability. Have you ever heard that?
I like that. I've not heard of diffability. I've heard of differently abled, but even that kind of just sounds a bit...
That's too long.
But diffability, I like. Diffability is cool.
I think I made that up, Lizzie. I'm not sure if I actually heard someone else say it and then decided I made it up.
Trademark it, copyright it, get a stamp on it.
But I
like it, diffability.
I tend to say that, actually, when talking about anyone who's got a different ability, because it just seems like a fairer way of talking about them.
Yeah, no, disability, the whole word does sort of indicate that you are less, or you can do less, or your ability is less and you can contribute less.
It's not a good word.
No, it's a very good... Yeah, it's not a great word. I guess I'm just so used to it. I have thought about it. And we do have these discussions every now and then about, the word disabled and disability, and people share their different opinions and stuff. But I guess I'm just so used to it. But if you want to make diffability a thing, I would definitely go with that.
No, I think I will. I'm going to use that forever. Let's make it a thing.
Diffability. Just different. We're all different. No one's normal.
Exactly.
No one is normal.
Exactly. So. There's no such thing as normal.
And you got that great video about normal.
Oh my gosh, Lizzie, you telling me are you a fan?
I'm definitely a fan. I'm a huge fan. I've been following you for years.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, thank you. After I forced you to watch Princess Penny as well yesterday, I was like, please watch Princess Penny before we
didn't even force
do this
me.
Chat. Okay, we'll get onto that in a bit. But before we get there, let's get on to the super exciting stuff, which is wheelchair racing.
Hey.
I mean, you're insane.
Thank you.
And what I want to talk about is the story that led you to wheelchair racing. Because if I remember correctly, obviously you were always quite active and wanted to do different things. And did you do swimming for a little while?
Correct. Yeah, no, I did swimming for a very long time. That was like the first physical activity that I could do, because when you're in the water, you're weightless and there's no pressure on your bones. So actually it started out as therapy for me. So I was probably 3 or 4 or something like that when they just chucked me in a pool and said, "Oh, what can you do?" And that just progressed, over the years. And then I started going to a local training group. Me and my twin sister, actually, because, we just did stuff together because that's what twins do. And it just, progressed and progressed. And I started training with different squads. And I think even the Paralympic team, I did some training with them. And as soon as London was named host for 2012, that was within my family and stuff, that was oh, you gotta try and get yourself ready for that. So that was something that I'd always aimed at doing. And then just a couple of years beforehand, started getting a problem with my back. This horrible pain, which just can't even describe it. It would put me in A&E. It was just so severe and intense. And in 2012, I found out that my back was broken, or had been broken, and just didn't heal. So that was problematic.
Oh my gosh. And then did that kind of put a stop to the swimming?
Yeah, so I had surgery in 2013 to repair or like fix the fracture. I think they like just screwed the whole like vertebrae together, put a couple of screws in there, and that whole process, it was supposed to be like a routine thing. Should have been in hospital for like, a couple of days and then rest at home for like a couple of weeks and then, good to go. But I woke up from the surgery with, not really being able to do much with like my lower body. Significant amount of like muscle loss and just couldn't find the strength. And they tried to like sit me up and stuff, and I just couldn't do it. And no one knew why. No one had the answers. So I ended up being in hospital for nearly 4 months, just learning to do stuff all over again. So I spent a good couple of weeks sort of like log rolling in bed, which is just like literally just like rolling over a bed, and then eventually just like sitting up, and then like seat transfer. So then like sitting in a different seat, not in a bed, and eventually I stood up and made a few steps. And then eventually I was able to go home. But it was a really long process, which kind of just took me by surprise and took everyone around me by surprise. So
that must have been so exhausting.
It was exhausting, and I was so drained. Like there were so many things that sort of happened at that time, and I couldn't process it all. And it was just all too much. Like I got so depressed. I was so low. And I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. Like at that point in my life, I was supposed to be doing my last year of college. And I think I literally had the surgery in like the end of August. So I was out for like the first, 4 months at least of college. I think I didn't go back until after Christmas. But I didn't know what I was going to be able to do now that, this has happened. And it just made me like question like everything that I'd set myself up to do. At college, I was studying like science and health and social care, and I sort of wanted to go into like some kind of healthcare job eventually, because that's kind of what I grew up with, and I love the environment, and I just wanted to be able to be in a position where I could help someone else, and I guess give back from all that I'd experienced, and that was something that I just always wanted to do, and now I was in this place at this time, and I realised that I wasn't going to be realistic. Like I couldn't, stand for 5 minutes at this current time, let alone, do whatever I would have been required to do as a nurse, and it just threw me completely.
That's so awful to hear, and I'm so sorry.
Like we all have these experiences.
I feel like, I don't know, it's when things out of your control take away your identity, or what you think is your identity. And I think that's what sends a lot of us down a dark path. Because for you've obviously been like this super driven, determined person. And then for that to happen, that's life just stripping you of your identity in a way.
Yeah. And I think there was also the fact that, no one could explain why my body had reacted the way that it had to this surgery, and to go from thinking, oh, I'll be back into relative normality after like a couple of weeks, and to actually just I didn't know that I would be in hospital for nearly 4 months. It was just you didn't there was no you couldn't say that you're in the final stretch now, because you just didn't know how long this stretch was going to be, and I think that's always difficult when you can't see an end, and when it's such a difficult moment, a difficult place in your life, and you can't see that ending. That's really hard to deal with, and a really dark place to be in.
I look at you now, and you're like incredible. You're like so like one of the smiliest persons I've ever met, and I look at what you've achieved, and it's like you clearly overcame that somehow.
Yeah.
Where did you start?
I think I knew that the place I was in, the way I was sort of acting, like I was struggling to eat. I wasn't like getting up in the morning and stuff like that. I was just even my parents were struggling to come and see me because they just couldn't see me in the way that I was, and it was just, I guess everything kind of, you get to a point where you just have to look at yourself or look at where you are and you think, I can't do this. Like, I'm not going anywhere where I am right now, and the only person that's able to change the situation that I'm in right now is me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was difficult. Like, it wasn't like, an instant thing. Like, I had to leave, hospital and figure out my next move, really. And I wanted to figure out what I was going to do in my life, and I decided to go back to college. Well, I tried to finish that final year of college, actually. So I did go back, but it didn't. It was just too much in too short a time. So I actually decided to go back and do college again. So I actually ended up going to a different college and studied sport, which is like, it was just sport. It was like equivalent to 3 A levels, so it was cool to just, not have lots of different things. It was just, I'm gonna dedicate to sport, because sport is the most consistent thing in my life. It always has been. So I knew if I was going to find my fire again, it would be with sport, and to be able to study it and understand it better. That was just something that interested me, and it was sort of in between that time of going to college, or sort of starting college. I was doing some like volunteering at like different sport events and disability sport events as well. And I met this kid who was a wheelchair racer, and he was just talking to me about it. And I was sort of, explaining that, I'm in a bit of a limbo right now. I've just come out of this time in hospital, and I'm just figuring myself out and figuring out life. And he was just like, why don't you come down to my track, local track? It's on, this day. Why don't you just give it a go? Jump in the chair, give it a go, see what you think. You might enjoy it. So I thought, what's not to lose? And like, now I'm kind of like a yes man. Like, I think I'm more afraid of like saying no to stuff, because I just don't know what that opportunity, might bring to me as a person. And I just was like, sod it. Let's just, I shouldn't say that.
It's fine.
You know what? Let's just go there. Just get in the chair, just do it, see what you think of it, because it's an opportunity, and you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know. So later that week, I went down to the track, jumped in into a racing chair, and it was funnily enough, it took me that long to get in a racing chair. All the sport that I've done in my life, and it took me that long to get in a racing chair, but I did it, and it was very different. It was difficult for sure, but I really enjoyed it, and I think my whole thought process when it comes to thinking about the whole concept of wheelchair racing is you can only go as fast as you make the chair go. Like, you can only go as fast as you can go, and that is like a never-ending challenge. And it's always a goal to be faster, even if it's just like 100th of a second faster. Like, if I can do that, that's like gold medal moment for me. If I can get PB, happy days. And that's my whole that's always been my mentality, and it still is today. And I love it. I love the speed and the tactics of wheelchair racing, and it's just a really cool sport.
What does it feel like when you're like in it in full motion and you're going super, super fast? Can you describe it?
I don't even know how to describe it. It's funny. Like, I kind of, as soon as that that gun goes and you're like, you have to go, it kind of feels like a blur. Yeah. And then I've crossed the finish line and I'm like, what just happened? But it's you just got to go for it, like as fast as you can. And with like good technique.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's what training's for,
coach.
Right?
Exactly.
I guess you train so hard so that then your intuition just takes over in the race.
Yeah. There's, that's it. Like, the race, when you're in a race, sometimes like you can train as much as you can, sort of do things, and your head just maybe might do other things. But yeah, it's a really interesting mindset once you enter that like race space. But it's a really cool, and like a lot of adrenaline, and you're just buzzing. Yeah. You're just so buzzing.
Do you get nervous?
Oh hell yeah, yeah. No, I get so nervous. I get so nervous like all the time. I remember. Last year, like the first competition of last season, I think I got I think I didn't fall asleep till like 4 a.m.
Oh no.
I was so nervous. And then that just made me more nervous because like I had to wake up at like 7, I guess, to race. And I was like, I've only had 3 hours sleep. And I was like freaking out. And it was just, it was ridiculous. But I always get nervous, especially at the start of the season. Like that's just a really nerve-wracking place to be because no one's seen each other in a while. You don't know, what your competitors are thinking and what they've been up to and what they're doing, and you just
and how many hours sleep they've had.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, I can't start the season with 3 hours sleep. Someone get me some coffee.
I feel like though, when things like that happen, even though you've only had 3 hours sleep, like your brain knows, and your brain will give you enough adrenaline to still be able to go for it. You might like zonk out like later and sleep for a week, but I think our body and our brain has a way of knowing what's important and provides us with what it needs. It wouldn't be able to do that consistently, but like I think one-offs, if you miss a bit of sleep, you can the adrenaline is
definitely like, I'm going to carry you through this.
No matter adrenaline.
What. Yeah, literally. But I think you just get in there and you're just like, okay, 3 hours sleep, you don't matter. I got this.
And the racing chair that you use, they're slightly different because you actually tuck your legs underneath. Is that correct?
There's 2 different seating positions. You can, tuck your legs underneath, so it kind of looks like you just folded yourself in half or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or your kneeling position, that's what they call it.
Yeah.
Kneeling position. That makes more sense. Or, if you can't, some people can't kneel, so you can just sort of have your legs, like your butt is still in the same place, but like it's just kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it. You just don't tuck your legs so much, so they just kind of go more down to the ground.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense. So you just have like a little foot plate, and that's, you can do that. But I kneel. The chair is very different to a day chair. So, but it's got 3 wheels, so that's a good, that's a good difference. You've got two large wheels, towards the back, and on them wheels, you've got this little like push rim. And that's, what you make contact with to propel yourself around the track. And you don't even grip the push rim in the way that you do a day chair when you're pushing. So I have these special made to measure gloves. And actually the chair's made to measure as well. But I have these special made to measure gloves. And they've got a couple of pads, like a couple of points where you make contact with the push rim and you just you kind of punch the push rim. Mm-hmm. But there's like a whole like technique to it. So maybe you'll like hit the push rim at like 9 o'clock and then like flick off the bottom at like 7 o'clock, and then you just, I've got to send you a video and then you can...
I've seen some little bits of you doing it, and it's like, it's crazy fast.
It is,
like looking at you, because you did an ident with Channel 4.
Yes.
And you're all like, there's a group of you wheelchair racing, well, just wheelchair wheeling along the front, because you're not racing, you're just like going along, and
that's it, just doing the thing.
But you're like going so fast.
It was a cool thing.
Yeah, and they've animated like a little number 4 running after you, trying to keep up with you, which is really funny as well. So
he couldn't keep up with us. We were way too fast for him.
Okay, so let's talk about some of your competitions. And well, that started in 2015, didn't it? Because that's when you were given your classification. Can you just explain the classification element of diffability athletics?
Yeah, so within diffability sport, I love that. So obviously there's so many different diffabilities. Yeah, so many diffabilities that you need to make sport, an even playing ground for everyone. And for example, if I was to race someone with one arm, that wouldn't be fair. Or if I was to race someone who had a spinal injury, which perhaps meant that they had no core, so they couldn't engage their abs, or it was anywhere sort of like between the chest and upwards, basically. Then I would have an advantage over them because I have complete function, basically. So there's loads of different classifications within sport, and each sport is different. Within athletics, you've got obviously track and field, but within wheelchair racing, there is a respectable handful of different classifications, and I am T54, and that is the most competitive classification. That has the most people competing in that classification, because it's kind of like, it's not that specialist of a like group, because there's so many, because I've got complete function of like my upper body, well, my whole body really, but my legs are like more affected, but it doesn't really matter about my legs because obviously I'm using my upper body. So yeah, there's different groups basically for different disabilities, and I'm a T54.
Great. And competing as a T54 athlete, you have won a lot of stuff. You've won like bronze medals, you've won silver medals, and you've won a number of gold medals too, right?
There's a few things here and there, but yeah, no,
there's loads there. It's on your website. It's like gold, silver. Just it's like crikey.
Staring at my trophies behind the camera.
Oh, really?
They are behind me actually, but there's a few of them up there. But yeah, no, it's cool.
So
I've had quite a bit of success, more on the road side of things actually, I think, than on the track. But it's it's been really exciting, and it's always nice to get a shiny little medal.
So let's just talk about off track stuff. What are you proud of, like in general, off of the track when you're not racing? So
when I'm not racing, like I've really I like to reflect on why I've had issues in today's society, and I like to think of what I can do to change it. And one of the things that I came up with a couple of years ago, which is when I was actually recovering from an injury, is going into schools and delivering like talks and just being open with them and having discussions and giving them the opportunity to like ask me questions, like literally anything. They can ask me absolutely anything, and it's wonderful because they're so young and they're so honest and they're so curious, and they're not afraid at that age. Like high school is a completely different game.
Yeah.
But primary school kids, I love them. They're great, and it's been so much fun. I've really enjoyed it, and I'd love to think that they've. Yeah, I've heard really good feedback, from the schools that I've been to. I think it's probably nearly like 50 odd in like West Sussex, and like surrounding areas, and they've really enjoyed me coming in and sharing my story and talking about so many different aspects, of my life. And I've maintained, really good relationships with some of these schools, and they've invited me back for like sports days, or they've got like diversity week or Paralympic and Olympic week and stuff like that. So it's been really cool to be, a consistent presence in some of these kids' lives, and just for them to see a disabled person, just smashing it.
Absolutely smashing it.
Also,
yeah. Thriving. Being a hero. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. But like also just how I navigate. Yeah. I always use this word, how I navigate through life. We all have to navigate through life, but how I navigate through life, and perhaps, give some advice to them, which will help them navigating through their life. And
yeah, whatever they have to face.
That's it. Because we will all have struggles at some point in our life. And mine is, well, one of mine, just so happens to be easier to see because I'm in a wheelchair, but you can't ever, write someone off because you don't know what they're going through. You're never going to know. And you just have to be open-minded to different people's experiences.
That's incredible. And I'm so pleased to hear that you do that.
Thank
you go into primary schools and diversify the people that the children are coming into contact with and seeing, because we know there isn't a lot of disability representation in children's media and in children's books. Did you have any disability characters or role models when you was a kid growing up?
No, to be honest, no. There was, I didn't open a book and see myself, ever represented or on TV. I don't think either. Like, there's literally nothing that's springing to my mind. But yeah, I only wish that you were around when I was at school, because I'd definitely be owning all of your books and probably writing to you, hassling you to make more books because I want more books to read.
Oh, thanks, Lizzie. Yeah, I'm so pleased that I've created that Princess Penny and the Pea-Bit.
Yeah.
Because even though my thing is like LGBT plus books, Princess Penny isn't an LGBT plus book, but I'm pretty sure she would be an ally.
Yeah.
Or maybe she is LGBT plus, like, because the story isn't about that.
That's it.
But I created that story at a time when I started to realize that actually all minorities are connected. Like, we all share some battles. We share a lot of things. And yeah, I just was learning how important it is to represent everyone and to connect with everyone. So that was kind of the inspiration behind that.
I really love that about you. And I have to say, thank you for doing that. I mean, just for all of your wonderful creations. Like, yeah, me and my partner have been having a look this week together. She's actually familiar with you anyways, but we were, it's just so amazing to see how you create so many like incredible, beautiful characters. And I'm just, it's amazing that you've created Princess Penny.
Oh, thank you, Lizzie. Like, that's incredible to hear you say that. And I love that it kind of resonates with you.
It's so cool.
At the same time, I'm so wound up that there's not more out there. I'm wound up that there's not a Disney princess in a wheelchair. Like,
I know. I'm still waiting for that moment, man.
Like, I love Disney. Everyone loves Disney, but it's like,
who doesn't?
Come on.
Yeah.
Like, to be fair, Disney have, like, you know, like they do with a lot of minorities, sprinkle people in.
Sprinkle.
That's what I feel like. Do they sprinkle in a gay character here? That. Blink and you'll miss it. They'll sprinkle in a disabled person. Oh, there's one black princess. It's like,
I love that.
Okay. I mean, obviously they're learning. We're all learning. They're getting better.
Totally.
We're all getting better.
We are all getting better.
Things are changing, and you know, it is going in the right direction. But
more needs to be done.
Something else which is just random, and I briefly said this to you the other day, we can see how important it is when kids have representation, because, you know, we've both seen that little video of the little girl in a wheelchair when she gets a Barbie that's also in a wheelchair, and her face, it just says it all. It's like she's absolutely elated to have a toy that is like her.
That's so special.
Yeah, and seeing things like that just inspire me. It's like, look, it is important. Look how happy that child is.
It does make such a difference. Like, you don't feel so alien, and you don't feel so alone, and you don't feel so different.
You don't feel wrong.
You don't feel wrong. Yeah, exactly. Like, if you can't see you out there, then how are you going to learn to be you? How are you going to learn to be you comfortably and confidently? Like, I didn't see me out there in either aspect of being a disabled individual or a queer individual. And that was like, you know, I had no idea how I was going to live my life, what I'd be capable of. Could I live alone? Could I find a relationship? Like, ridiculous questions like that. You don't know. And it was, you know, so many questions.
And that's why I wanted to, in the Penny story that I've written and animated, that's why I wanted to have her, you know, swimming and playing in the mud and riding a unicorn, because
love that.
I want people to know that people who have different abilities can still do the same stuff that everyone else can do.
Exactly.
I don't want disability people to be boxed in.
Yeah.
And thought of in a really old-fashioned way, which is like, oh, we just, you know, we have to keep them separate.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, no, like, everyone can be involved with everything.
Yeah. I really liked how you did the Princess Penny story. And I really felt it was cool because, you know, I was aware that she was disabled, but I didn't feel like the whole point of the story was of her disability. It was like, she's a character who just so happens to be disabled, and she's, you know, she wants to be part of the townspeople. She wants to do things that other people are doing. And then this blooming pea. It's a funny pea. I love that pea. I was like nearly in tears when she ate the pea. I was like, no.
And yeah, I guess the idea behind that book is actually treating people how they want to be treated. Like, don't assume anything about anyone and treat them because of whatever reason. Like, Penny gets treated very differently in the book, not because of her disability, but because she's a princess. And it's like, no, you can't go play in the mud, you're a princess.
Exactly.
You can't go do this because princesses don't do that. And it's like, Penny just wants to be one of the gang.
Yeah.
And go and have fun like everyone else does. And that's kind of the message I was trying to get across, like, not to treat people.
You nailed it.
That's so good to hear. Thank you so much.
You nailed it. I loved it.
Because I wrote that one a little while ago, and at that time in my life, you know, I didn't have many people around who had disabilities who I could ask and check with. So I think I kind of took a risk with that one, and hoping that I would do disability people justice. So I'm thrilled to hear you say that. Thank you very much. I wanted to talk about this a lot, but we might be short on time. But I want to talk about your LGBT plus identity, because that's like a whole other thing, because you identify as a lesbian, right?
Well, I identify as queer.
As queer.
So I kind of feel like, because I feel like my LGBTQ plus identity doesn't just touch into like my sexuality. I feel like it does touch into my gender and my identity as a whole.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel, I know the term queer hasn't been perhaps the best term to use in the past. Obviously that's not, well, I say obviously, that's not really been my experience. I guess I'm just at that age where I kind of missed all of that. And now I'm aware of my identity and who I am. That's kind of just, I kind of feel like the term queer for me is something that I can just recreate what's like comfortable for me. And it doesn't have boundaries. It doesn't have a stop here. It's kind of, it's just me. It's however I express. So yeah. That's just my identity. It's just me.
When did you kind of realize that you might have been queer?
Definitely from a young age. I think, I guess from more of like the sexuality side, I was definitely, like attracted to women from an early age, and that was interesting. That was definitely, like the hidden sort of thing. It was crazy, being like, crushing on girls and stuff and not being able to talk about it. Just, being a kid in like primary school or like high school was kind of like, what you talk about? And I just didn't know how to express that or how to talk about it, because I wasn't brought up thinking that was a particularly good thing. Like I was brought up in a Christian household.
Oh really? Yeah.
And my parents, they separated, and my mum I was staying mostly with my mum, and she was particularly very like Christian, and it was difficult conversation really to ever imagine having with her. I think I remember times where we just so happened to be like watching like Ellen on TV, and she'd come in and like switch the channel over or something like that. But I'm happy to say that it's not like that now. We've both massively grown a lot, and I didn't actually come out, or I didn't even really like come out. I never really wanted to really come out, because I guess I'm still like, I think I'll always be figuring out like my identity and like, where I fit on the spectrum, which I guess why I'm so comfortable with the term queer, because I don't have to figure it out, and I don't have to know, and that's fine. But yeah, I got to a point in my life where I'd met my now partner, Rosa, and I didn't want to hide her. I wanted to share her, because she's just so amazing. She's just so amazing. And if you don't meet Rosa, then you've missed out.
Oh. And
I was going off to university, and we just met. And she's from Switzerland. I met her in Switzerland when I was on a training camp. And we took some pictures together. And yeah, it was like over a few weeks. We went out on like our first date and stuff, and a few other dates, and we had like lots of pictures together. And I came back home to England, and I was going off to university, and I had these pictures which I'd actually misprinted, and they were like A4 size. so I took them home. With me, and I left them on my desk in my bedroom at my mum's. And she's like super nosy, and I knew that she'd find them. And that was that was all I wanted. Is for her to just know. Because I guess it doesn't really become any clearer than that. But I knew that if I ever tried to make it a conversation first, it might be difficult. So I just wanted to give her the time and the headspace to just take it in, I guess,
and process it.
And process it, totally. And it was nice that I wasn't in that house for a while, so she would totally just had like her own time to think about it. And after a couple of weeks, she wrote to me, and she was like, I've discovered something about you, and you're at an age that you can make your own decisions, and although I may not completely agree with them, like, I love you, I always will. So that was quite a relief. To be honest, like just to know that she loves me and she always will, and that wasn't going to be I wasn't, going to be out on the streets mumless. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
because that is a fear. That is a fear for a lot of LGBT plus people.
It totally is.
However much your parents or carers love the seemingly straight you, I don't know. I guess you can't always predict how they're going to react.
Exactly. And when you've had years to think about it, you just have every scenario ready in your brain. Is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? And it's just, you just don't know.
It's like added trauma on top of everything else for you. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. And you hear so many stories about, poor LGBTQ plus kids who have come out and had these horrible experiences with their families. And I never wanted that. I never wanted to be in that position. So I think I guess I got myself into a safe place where I was at uni. I was living away from home. And in the end it worked out. And I think my mum was a bit nervous and apprehensive at first, but once she met Rosa, she loves her. 4 years down the line, she's probably texts her more than she texts me, and they've got so much in common. They're just like best mates. It's so cool. I know I could never have imagined it. And I'm just so happy.
That's so lovely.
I think for my mum, it took her to see me in a happy and healthy relationship. To really, understand that it's okay. I'm safe, I'm happy, I'm healthy. There's nothing bad here. It's all good. It's all love. It's all love.
Can I ask you, is there a diffability community like we have the LGBT plus community? And if there is, what are the similarities? What are the differences?
There's so many different communities within the diffability community. So, for example, as a person with brittle bones, osteogenesis imperfecta, we've got our own little community, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. And actually, we're within the UK, there's a charitable organisation which sort of makes gatherings and stuff throughout the year. So we just hang out. And can have these conversations and events and discuss lots of different things, and it's really supportive and a really cool place to be from that aspect. But I think disabilities in general, it's whenever I see I'm out in town and I see someone with a more noticeable this disability, if they're in a wheelchair, then I always find myself sort of giving them the nod. Do you know what I mean?
Really?
Hello there, friend.
That is so interesting, because I do that with if I see two same-sex people holding hands.
Yeah, no, me too. And it's me and my partner always do it. We always find ourselves giggling about it, because it's our people. We found our people.
Yeah, it's true. And it's you just need to let them know that you're part of their community, and then support them. Yeah,
totally.
No, I love that.
Me too. It's so fun. I'm so glad we're not the only ones that do that. I've never actually discussed that with anyone else. It's definitely with any minority, I guess you have your own thing, your own way of communicating, and there's so many, I guess, with social media, there's so many ways to be in touch with one another and discuss things about any issues or sort of things that you're going through. So I'm part of so many Facebook groups online, the different diffability groups, and being someone with osteogenesis is just endless amount of resources and support groups in place.
That's fantastic to hear.
It's really cool.
That is available, and that is there for anyone that needs it. Where can people find you online, Lizzie?
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter. I do have a Facebook page, and I will be relaunching my YouTube channel soon. So I will, that will obviously go out on my social media platforms.
Awesome.
But just keep an eye out for that. That's going to be, I can't wait to do that. And just talking with you has really encouraged and inspired me to just get back on that. So
amazing. So watch this space.
I'm excited.
So what should people type in on Instagram and Twitter to find you?
Yeah, of course.
Lizzie Williams?
My username, I've tried to, just so I don't forget all these different usernames, I've tried to just keep it with Lizzie Wheelz, and that's Lizzzie, and then Wheelz with a Z, so WHEELZ.
Love it.
That's it. That's me.
So Google that and you should come up. Amazing.
Exactly, yeah. Or just, you can Google my name, Lizzie Williams, and I'm sure that will come up as well. So either way. You can find
Fantastic.
me. I'm out there somewhere.
Lizzie, you've been absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
And I want to end with one last question.
Go for it.
And that is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I'd love to just tell myself, I'd love to embrace myself, give myself a really big hug, and just know that it is, super cliche, but it does get better, and it will get better, and just allowing yourself to continue to grow and go at your pace. I think there can be this pressure in today's society, this instant society, that things and change needs to happen now, and it's a process and it's a journey, and you just need to give yourself the time and space and respect to just do your thing at your pace, and know that it's going to be okay. And there are plenty of people, so many communities and people that just love you and will love you for who you are, and you can just reach out to them. So yeah, feel free, if there's anyone listening right now who would love to get in touch and just drop me a message, or just say hey, or whatever it is, just drop me a message. I'd love to chat.
Amazing. Lizzie, thank you. You've been epic.
Thank you so much, Olly. You are amazing. I love you so much. Mwah.
Hello again, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed this episode of Equality Education. Thank you so much for listening. If you did like it, then please consider helping me to make more episodes by becoming a Pop and Olly site member at popandolly.com. You can do this for as little as £2 a month, and you will receive some really awesome perks too. So please go and check it out. Okay, thanks again for being here, and I can't wait to have another episode for you next time. Take care.